Hey there, students. Tom Ritchie here with the night before Euro. It is about that time. The AP European History exam will be happening at very soon, right? And so we are going to be live for the next hour plus, and we are going to be going through the night before Euro. I've got some great things planned. We might do a little singing. Also, remind me at the end, I want to read y'all a bedtime story. I have this wonderful bedtime story about Frederick the Great. So we're going to give y'all a little bedtime story, except for those of you who decide that you want to join me on tonight's salon review. Every night, we have a salon review that is limited to, only 30 people. Okay, so only 30 people can sign up for the salon review. I need to do a link real quick. YouTube. Let me see. I realized on the YouTube I don't have a link to the Breakfast with Ritchie broadcast. Okay, so Breakfast with Ritchie. Let's see. That is, so we've got this. I need to put a reminder about that in the YouTube chat. All right, so let me go ahead and just run in here real quick. Need to make sure I'm going to be back at 10 a.m. Eastern. Okay, so this is my last public broadcast tonight. But at 10 a.m. Eastern, I'm going to be live with the annual Breakfast with Ritchie. Also, I'm going to be doing lunch with Marco. Okay, so make sure that you are subscribed to Marco Learning's YouTube channel in addition to this one, because I'm going to be doing lunch with Marco. So let's make sure that we understand what's going on there. Okay, so tonight we are going to be at 10 o'clock. We're going to have a salon review that's limited to 30 participants. Okay, so we've got 17 in there right now, so there are still 13 spots. Last night's filled up. This one's going to fill up as well. So if you want one of those 13 spots to do a little late night small group study session, then great. All right, so Marco Learning's YouTube channel. Tomorrow, we're going to be having lunch with Marco at 1 o'clock p.m. Breakfast with Ritchie is at 10 o'clock a.m., all times Eastern. Okay, so we've got Breakfast with Ritchie is happening tomorrow morning. Now, also, let's show Romulus Euro some love at the App Store. It's currently number 3 in education. It's just my little trivia app. It's it's nothing fancy, but it's why it's $1.99. It's just a great way to study if you don't want to just sit there writing DBQs all the time. Remember, when you're writing DBQs, one of the things that limits people the most when you're thinking about there's a subject, there's a piece of subject matter that I'm not very good at. And so you're scared, and you know what? You can get on Romulus and you can quiz yourself. Okay, so it's a little trivia app that allows you to quiz yourself on certain topics. So for $1.99, I think that's a good investment. But then again, the POV is me. I'm somebody who, it's my app. So Tom Ritchie may be just trying to make money from his app. It could be, it could be a terrible app, okay, because it's coming from Tom Ritchie. But then again, just there's only one way to find out, right? So Romulus European History, which we've got it, it's available at the App Store and on Google Play. Let's try to get it up to number 1. That would make me really happy tonight. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, just remember we've got a lot of great stuff coming up, and let's make sure that we are subscribed to Marco Learning. Also, I'm going to be shouting out occasionally to people who are following me on Instagram and people who are following Marco Learning. So if you're following Tom Ritchie and or Marco Learning on Instagram, I'm going to be doing some shout outs once in a while. So with that, and remember to come into the Crowdcast if you want to ask questions. I'm going to be looking at the YouTube chat here and there. But the thing is, what we've got to note is the YouTube chat's going to be going really, really fast. Okay, so it's already going faster than I can read it. I'm thankful for everybody here. So with that, one more thing that I want to note, I just posted a refresher video today on the 2020 AP Euro DBQ. So make sure to take a look at that video. That's something that'll be a great thing for you to look at. Give it a like. And a comment. Okay, engage with it, watch it all the way through. It would be great, for y'all to get a last minute sort of primer on the requirements. Okay, even if you've looked at it already, the rubric, it wouldn't be a bad idea to look at it again. So be sure to take a look at that 2020 DBQ. Also, I did a video on cheating yesterday with my daughter, which, remember that when it comes to cheating, it is anything that is not, anything that uses another person is cheating. So to clear up everything, I've made that video. Now, I'm getting questions about Grammarly. make sure, I know there's some kind of nuance there, so I'm not going to answer that question verbatim, but what I want y'all to note is if you use Grammarly, make sure you understand what the potential hangup is. So I don't know what the potential hangup is, but I know there is. Oh, y'all want some invisible hands? Just Adam Smith here. All right. So as far as that goes, that there is some kind of hang up with Grammarly, and you want to make sure that you know that there is a situation where you can use it and a situation where it's not going to work. So make sure that you know one way or the other. Okay. So as far as that goes, ladies and gentlemen, let's go ahead and get into our review. So we've got a question. Okay, what topic do you believe will most likely appear on exam day? Wouldn't everybody love to know? Now, here's what I want to note here, and y'all are about to find out. You're the first AP history exam tomorrow, so you're going to be the first ones to take an AP history exam. AP US government and politics. Yesterday, there were several prompts. Okay, so that's one thing that y'all want to note, that there were several prompts, several versions of the exam. So what we want to think about here is, it may, we've been thinking about everybody's going to take the same one. That's why it's at the same time. But that's not what happened with government. Of course, there were some upset international students. They were like, if there are multiple versions of this exam, then why are we, if there are multiple versions of this exam, then why is it that we are, taking the exam at 4 a.m? A lot of internationals are thinking. So as far as that goes, understand that it may not be just one DBQ topic. Now, one thing that I think that, it's probably, I'm thinking that usually the DBQ starts at 1600. Now, they've opened it up to 1450. Now, one thing that I'm just going to kind of put that out there, if you don't like it, just send it right back, is I'm thinking that it's not likely that the DBQ will be like exclusive to the Renaissance. Now, maybe they'll have something that, includes the Renaissance, but includes something else too. But I'm thinking that when you're thinking about contextualizing a Renaissance prompt, it's going to require somebody, the best contextualization will be given by somebody who knows stuff about the Middle Ages. So that's what I'm thinking in terms of that. But I don't want to get in the business of predicting. Okay, we don't want to get in the business of predicting, because you really want to be familiar with anything they're going to throw at you. And the good news about this being a DBQ is that a lot of this is about process. There are 6 points that you can still score on that exam, even if you know next to nothing about the topic. You just know how to do a DBQ. It is possible that you could still make a 6 out of 10, which is a probable 3. Okay, the way that I'm looking at this, I think that, well, a 6 I would say is a safe 3. We don't know. The College Board doesn't even know. They score the exams and then they decide what's a 3, a 4, or 5. Now, I would say that a 6 is a safe 3. An 8 is a safe 4, a 9 is a safe 5. Now, with that being said, I think you're probably looking at like 5, 7, and 8 as possible, like 3, 4, 5s. I think personally, the scores might indicate, I think the scores are going to indicate that people with extra time are going to have disproportionate 9s and 10s. Okay, people with extra time are disproportionately going to score 9 and 10, because the thing is, you really don't have time. Okay, like the thing is, unless you think about the scientific method. Let's think about Francis Bacon and Rene Descartes and the scientific method. Let's think about empiricism. All right, so a lot of people, oh yeah, I'm gonna go get all 10 points. Well, how many times have you practiced this as an experiment? Have you replicated exam conditions? When we think about the scientific method, if you're going to try to use all 5 documents, go for all 10 points, have you replicated exam conditions, okay, enough times, and you have seen it over and over again, that you have been able to get 10 points in 45 minutes without getting sloppy, without sacrificing other points. And odds are you're probably not, most people aren't going to be able to do that, and that's okay. That's why I typically will, yeah, how can I get extra time? That's a great question, isn't it? But but yeah, it's probably too late to get extra time at this point. But the people who have extra time, a lot of those folks are going to be doing very well in the exam because they're going to be getting twice as much time as other people. And so I think that you're probably going to see a lot of the 9s and 10s. You're going to see that that is, that's going to be a situation. I don't know if I'd recommend voice to text. Like voice to text sounds, you're going to have to go through and correct yourself, but, to each their own, right? So as far as that goes, we want to think about this that, okay, and Scarlett, you are noting here that it is important to practice, practice, practice. If you have not practiced, then what we want to note here is that you are, going to be in a position where you're gambling tomorrow. So if you go to my AP Euro DBQ page, which just go to tomritchie.net, AP Euro DBQ, you can see a great guide from Marco Learning. And let me just go ahead and go over this with y'all. Okay, so, we can Google AP Euro DBQ. Okay, so let's take a look here, and there we go. Okay, there's my new video. Y'all be sure to show that some love. Okay, and so going from there, we've got AP European History, and so let's take a look here. So Marco, we've got the rubric. Okay, we've got my rubric that you're welcome to print out and have nearby while you're working, or you can just go ahead and you'll see it on the Marco Learning Annotation and Setup Guide. Now, what we see here is when we're looking at strategies, these are the 10 points. And so I've got a 6-point strategy, an 8-point strategy, and a 10-point strategy. One thing that I'm recommending to people, since contextualization is a standalone point and is a little bit more labor intensive and speculative for a lot of people, what I recommend is that you write your thesis. Now, describe 2 documents. I recommend 3 documents because that gives you leeway to mess one up. Okay, that gives you leeway to mess up one of the documents. Use them to support an argument, which means topic sentences, a piece of outside evidence in each paragraph, POV plus in one of the paragraphs. You still have time, add another POV plus, and then that way you're finished with your body paragraphs. Now go back and do contextualization. I think that a lot of times contextualization, people spend a lot of time kind of thinking about it. And if you spend too much time with contextualization right at the beginning, first of all, you're not as attentive to your thesis. Okay, so my thought about this is that you should write your thesis, look at your thesis statement. Okay, looks good. Now I'm going to go into my body paragraphs. Then I'm going to restate my thesis, different words than originally. And then I'll go back up to the top if I have time and do contextualization. And that way you are not going to be as rushed because it's like, okay, if I don't have time to do contextualization, I'll lose 1 point, but I still am passing the exam. Whereas a lot of the other points, you don't want to get cut off in the middle of your body paragraphs. Now, another thing, make sure you're using clock management. When you see that red light start blinking at 45 minutes, take it seriously. Somebody that I know contacted me yesterday, and he said that he had to fill out a request to retake the exam. Why? Because he waited too long to submit it. He saw that he had a problem. He thought, okay, I'm going to wait right up to 50 minutes, and he's going to retake his AP government exam in June. So what I would do here, by 45 minutes, I would have everything. If you were working outside of the college board space to work, bring it in there, finish your sentence, submit the thing. There should be no reason why you should still be working, especially at minute 48. I would consider minute 48 to be a hard stop, and minute 45 to be like, okay, seriously, get it done, finish your sentence, whatever. But at 48, I would be clicking to submit. Do not Les Miles that thing. If any of y'all follow college football, don't be a bad clock manager. That's something that's very important. So if we think about this, what do you think is going to be on the exam tomorrow? What I can answer is a DBQ. Okay, so it follows that we need to have a strategy for the DBQ that is going, remember this one, don't do it, Anakin. I have the high ground. That's one of those things that unless you are in a situation where you have replicated this a number of times, remember, the scientific method does not say experiment one time and it's okay. It means that you have consistently scored these points over and over again. and your teacher has said, hey, I've got, this is a 10-point essay. You've done it over and over again. Then if you want to try that, then go for it. Now, another thing is complex understanding is one of those things that if you write a brilliant essay, you're going to get it. It's not like the other points like, oh, what do I have to do for complex understanding? That if you write an essay that's got a thesis-driven argument, that the thesis has some nuance in it and considers, another perspective somewhere. But what I would do is write the best essay you can. And if the reader finds it brilliant, they're going to find a way to give you that complex understanding point. There are a variety of ways to earn it, but it's not a point that I would advise trying to intentionally earn. That I would go with this 8-point strategy, write the best essay I can. And if I have time after that, then maybe I'll add a couple more documents. But my general recommendation for most students, because most students aren't going to make a 5. And so, that's something, think about this 8-point strategy that I think is pretty solid. Now, you either want to annotate your documents. I wouldn't recommend printing because that's going to take time. You can either print this form and use it as an annotation guide, where you're deciding whether to use or strike a document. You're briefly summarizing. You're saying which side will it support. Now, remember, the AP Euro DBQ is always going to be an either or proposition. Okay, it's always going to be an either or proposition. Evaluate whether the 30 Years' War was more about politics or about religion. Evaluate whether or not Napoleon, upheld the values of the French Revolution. Now, remember, when they say whether or not, they are really asking for complex essays. Evaluate the extent to which. That it was mostly, the main thing about your standard complex format, your complex argument format, is to say that this is my answer here. So Napoleon, for example, upheld the values of the French Revolution in this way. Okay, so he mostly upheld because of this and this, but there was also a way in which he did not uphold it. So what I'm going to note here is we're going to note here that if you want some practice, okay, so how many of you would say that, let me go ahead, and who plans to write another DBQ before taking the exam? Let me see how many of y'all are thinking about that. So as far as that goes, okay, so how many of y'all are thinking, I want to take this? Now go to crowdcast.io/Tom Ritchie in order to take polls and all of that. YouTube folks, I'll be showing y'all some love. Glad you're here. Okay, but go to crowdcast.io/Tom Ritchie. Okay, and what I'm going to do here is on the YouTube chat, or in the YouTube description, I'm going to go ahead and put, 4 original DBQs. DBQs in the 2020 format. Okay, so I've got a link. I'm about to update the description. It's at the bottom of the video description. Those of you on YouTube, those of you on Crowdcast, I'm going to put this in the chat. This is just something that those are the 4 original DBQs that I've written. Okay, so I've written DBQs on Napoleon, conservatism, secularism in the Renaissance, and an Enlightened Absolutism. Now, also notice if you're looking for a 5th DBQ, so marcolearning.com, I'm going to go ahead and recommend that you go. A lot of y'all are showing up for the first time for one of these, so let me show you where we find stuff. Now, I've put my original DBQs in the description so that you should be able to access those. So, from there, we want to note, now we've got the Salon Review, 24 people in the Salon Review. There are 6 spots left for the Salon Review. Romulus, AP Euro Review, Romulus Euro, that is available at the App Store and Google Play. Let's see if we are moving up. We're currently number 3. Let's get to number 1 tonight. That would make me really happy. Now, marcolearning.com. You've seen a lot of my work with Marco Learning this year. marcolearning.com, you go to free resources, practice test, and you will see not only for AP Euro, but for 10 different subjects. There is a 2020 practice exam. So you can download that. That is a DBQ on the English Civil War. So go ahead and take a look at that as well. And while you're at this, remember that you want to make sure to subscribe to Marco Learning's YouTube channel, because I'm going to be there tomorrow at 1 p.m. for for lunch with Marco. Okay, so lunch with Marco is happening tomorrow, right after breakfast with Richie. Okay, breakfast with Richie at 10 a.m., lunch with Marco at 1 p.m. Okay, so that's going to be something something here. So lunch with Marco. So that's I mean, isn't that like the cutest dog ever? And with that, before we go on to the next topic, y'all have got some resources that y'all can look at. So make sure that you're looking at those. And let me go ahead and take a look here. We've got a lot of new Instagram followers: Nancy Flores, Jaxo, Essie, Claw, Michaels, Nicholas Roth, Tabers 37, Zava Laric, Vandres 10. We've got Hannah Lou, Nina Lachina or Nina Lachana, which Nina Lachana, I don't know. Julissa 2016. Thank you, Aaron Sears 22 and Jovning. All right, thank y'all for your thank you for your follows here. I'm looking forward to helping y'all with some other exams after this one. We've got Brian Cohn and Kate Swim. Kate, are you swimming? Let's see. So with that, we've got a lot of folks here, and Marco Learning just posted a timing guide for the AP Euro exam, just reminding you about everything you need for the AP Euro exam. Follow Marco Learning. I will be doing some shout outs for new Marco Learning followers. Okay, and I'm about to ask them for screenshots with that. Okay, so with that, we'll be getting some screenshots. Okay, actually, we've got some people here. Kate Swim, you're getting another shout out. We've got Leva Lee, Castle of Mick, and CC Nicholas Roth. Okay, a lot of y'all are doing some great stuff here. And Taylor Krojnik, Grace Kim 13, Artie Rocks, and Meg Beer. Thank y'all for following Marco Learning. Actually, that's something you're doing yourself a favor there. So with that, let's go ahead and get some more questions here. And remember, the DBQ is going to be on the exam tomorrow. So know how to do the DBQ. Make sure to show my new video a bit of love here. Okay, so make sure to show my new video a little bit of love. That's going to be good. So can I explain the Age of Modernity? Okay, so we're thinking about Nietzsche, Freud, Positivism, and Darwin. Okay, so Positivism. Now, here's the thing. We can definitely make that clear now. Okay, so Positivism is not like positive thinking in terms of like, whoa, look at me, I'm a positive thinker. It's positive in the sense that you are certain. Okay, so for example, if we were to say that Victoria tested positive for the coronavirus. Okay, so Victoria tested positive for the coronavirus. That means that she is certain. A lot of y'all, which I personally think I've already had the coronavirus. I think I had it a few weeks back. I had some light body aches and some congestion, and that really did not, the symptoms didn't go along with a cold or anything like that. I mean, most people who get the coronavirus have a mild to moderate case. So the thing is, though, I'm not positive that I've had the coronavirus because I have not been tested. So if we think about, a lot of y'all, a lot of you already had the coronavirus and you just didn't know it because you had such a light case. Yeah, go ahead, press F to pay respects. All right, where's my Baby Yoda mask? Actually, let me go. Let me get my mask just in case. All right, so I do have a new. I do have a Baby Yoda mask that I just got. Whoa. Okay, whoa. I'm trying to get into my chair here. So with that, yeah, I must be a ghost. All right. So with that, we've got I tell you, I love my new mask, and I can't really teach in it because y'all can't really hear me here. But if you are positive, if you get tested, then you'll be positive either way that you've been tested. So if you haven't been tested, you can't be positive. So if we're thinking in terms of positivism, this is basically in terms of, this is scientific certainty. Okay, so positivism is kind of like empiricism on steroids. Okay, a positivist does not believe in anything that they can't see, anything that they can't sense. And so everything is about what is there. Now, Locke was an empiricist, but Locke was also a Christian. Bacon was an empiricist. Bacon was also a Christian. And so empiricism, from the scientific revolution, there was still room for religious faith. Positivism is only about what can absolutely be proven scientifically. and what can be certain. And so, even if it doesn't make sense, if we've seen it, then we are positive about it. We are certain. Okay. So that's something that you want to be, wrap your brain around. Charles Darwin was a positivist. Charles Darwin went to the Galapagos Islands and he looked at the finches and he said, the finches over here are, or this way, the finches over there are that way. And he uses what he's observing. In terms of, using what he's observing in order to put this theory of evolution together. Okay, so he's putting this theory of evolution together. So that is what he's doing there. He's basing it on that. Now, Darwin's theory of evolution is something that is based on not the Bible. Okay, so when it comes down to it, I mean, somebody can be a Christian and believe in Darwinian evolution to an extent, but as far as, of course, most Christians will probably tell you that they believe in like theistic evolution, which is a little bit different than Darwinian evolution, which is based on natural selection. And so with that, Darwin, you can't believe what Darwin's saying and believe the creation narrative in the book of Genesis. They don't go together. And so Darwin is saying, look, the creation narrative in the book of Genesis, it doesn't have any evidence behind it. It doesn't have, we can't see it, we don't observe it. But this theory, this theory of evolution, this is based on observations. This is based on a scientific process. So, positivists are people who are very much like hard into the sciences. Now, Freud, all right. Now, Freud is interesting. Freud and Nietzsche, how they come into this. Freud is kind of the father of modern psychiatry. When we think about that he's seeing these patients, and it's like the idea of mental health, which I think we can all understand. Being in quarantine and having AP exams, this idea of mental health, we get it. But before Freud, it was like this idea, people thought in rational terms. So we want to understand that modern philosophy is questioning this whole like Enlightenment consensus that we are marching forward toward this very rational future where science is going to improve everything. Okay, so that's something. Oh, we've had some super chats. Let me see here. Scott, you know what? Thank you so much. Sioux City, Iowa. Mr. Embrock and his students in Sioux City, Iowa. POV, hold it down. Okay, that's something. If y'all, so I'm glad some of y'all appreciated the POV, hold it down. Mr. Raymond is Europe during the Columbian Exchange Superior. So let me now, if I missed some super chats, I'm sorry about that. Mr. Raymond is Louis the 14th and Peter the Great, but more elite. When I see super chats on YouTube, I will definitely, read what you put there. Okay, so I will definitely read super chats when I see them. I'm apologizing if I don't see them occasionally. Okay, so but yes, thank y'all for these super chats. Now, Freud is, we're seeing that this whole idea from the Enlightenment that we're rational, that the human mind makes sense. Freud's like, you know what? Actually, it doesn't. I'm seeing all these people who are just like unhealthy in their minds. And it seems like there's something on the subconscious, like consciousness is not the only thing that we have here. Okay. So the subconscious, this is a part of the brain that these things that we've repressed. So, when it comes down to it, it's like the young boy, when he's nursing on his mom, it's like, he's not just nourishing himself. He's not just getting food. You see this, you look at some people who allow their children to continue nursing to the point where, I've seen some children that are still nursing at 2.5, 3 years old, that they'll just they'll demand it. And, the thing is that this boy child is attracted to his mother, according to Freud. This is what he calls the Oedipus complex. As far as that, y'all make sure if people are spamming the chat and I see it, I might restrict y'all, okay? So make sure there are going to be some times when people are spamming the chat that I'm going to put you in timeout, okay? People who are spamming the chat. So with that, Freud is like, look, the boy is attracted to his mother. And that's why people have enjoyed that Greek play, Oedipus Rex. Like, why is it that generations after generation, they have watched this play? because it is basically going into their subconscious, where they've had to repress things. There was a book that he wrote, that Freud wrote, Civilization and Its Malcontents. So, this is something that Freud is saying that, oh, we got Pog in the chat there. And so Freud is saying that, like, look, you have the id, the ego, and the superego. The id is basically the little devil on your shoulder. That is what you want. I tell you what, my daughter Caroline's not here tonight, but she's so considerate and so giving. Like, when she's here, she'll refill my cup. She'll make me some more tea. She's just such a beautiful person. But when she was a baby, like when she needed attention, we're like, she didn't think like, oh, dad's doing something or something like that. I can't do that. But she just, and so the superego says, dad's doing something. Dad's broadcasting. Dad's busy with something. So I need to wait. Okay. And so the thing is, the superego is what's coming from outside, what we're taught. The id is what we want. And then we've got the ego that is the intermediary. The ego is basically trying to give the id as much of what it wants without, basically in the context of the superego. So the id is constantly mediating, and that is why we're so often conflicted, because we're not conscious of everything. So Freud is seeing something that is inherently irrational about the human mind. And this is also what you see out of existentialists such as Kierkegaard and Nietzsche, where Nietzsche's basically, he writes this book, The Antichrist, where he's basically eviscerating Christian morality, where, he says that Christianity is basically like glorifying weakness. It glorifies, protecting other people who are weaker than you are, which, gosh, if Nietzsche could see the whole thing with Corona, where, it's like people are, the strong are supposed to protect the weak. Nietzsche's like, no, I'm not really into that sort of thing. And so Nietzsche also, he talks about how morality is socially constructed. Okay. And it kind of goes along with what Freud's saying, is that, the id, the little boy, the boy's id, he's like, I'm attracted to my mom. And then the superego says, no, that's not okay, because that violates, socially constructed morality. And so Nietzsche's saying that, like, look, what's actually going on here, is that, we need to glorify our morality of strength. And so, Nietzsche in the genealogy of morals is talking about how morals are socially constructed. And he's taking issue especially with things like Christian morality and socialism, which call on the strong to protect the weak, when he says that this is a violation of human nature. And so that's, and then beyond good and evil, I think that one of my favorite quotes from Nietzsche is, what is done out of love takes place beyond good and evil. That basically actions in and of themselves are not, or feelings, they're not inherently good or bad, that we attach those things to them. Okay. We attach those things to actions. Okay. So with that, going into this, let's see if we've got some more Instagram followers here. We've got XOXO or Yika XOXO, Dixie Normus. We've oh gosh, y'all got, okay, y'all got me. Timbo, thank you. People, oh gosh, okay. Aylin 3, Annie Vince, y'all got me. Abby Durant, okay, so somebody, okay. And I oop. Okay, so yeah, a bra moment there. Maybe I need to take a little break from shout outs for a second. Okay, fine. Y'all got me. Somebody got me. But okay, ha 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 ha. All right, so pressing F to pay respects to Richie. Okay, so with that, going in there, who are we shouting out to? Yeah, the chat's moving so fast in the crowd. In the YouTube. YouTube, easiest way to get a shout out is probably a super chat at this point. Remember, Romulus Euro is available at the App Store and Google Play. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, let's go to the next question. Okay, let's see what we've got in the next question. What are some dates, edicts, treaties that you think we should make sure we know? Okay, so for the Age of Exploration, the Treaty of Tordesillas, which that divided the New World between Spain and Portugal at a line of demarcation. Okay, so basically Spain and Portugal made a little deal that they were going to divide the New World between them at a certain longitudinal line. Okay, so that's something that you would want to note there, the Treaty of Tordesillas. Then I would think the Peace of Augsburg is important. That is a, one of the first treaties of the Reformation, where Charles V gives up his crusade against Lutheranism. And he says, okay, fine, we're going to we're going to say whoever reigns, his religion in the Holy Roman Empire. So you see that, whoever reigns, his religion, Catholicism or Lutheranism. Okay. Now the 30 Years' War happens. Okay. And this, what happens in the 30 Years' War. Now, before, let's back up. Y'all said edicts. We want to note the Edict of Nantes, which is a product of the French, come on. Yeah, it was Dixie. Yeah, exactly. Dixie so y'all got me. Come on, let's get, that's not gonna be on the test tomorrow. All right. So with that, the Edict of Nantes. Okay, the Edict of Nantes was, of course, Henry IV of France, Henry of Navarre, a former Huguenot. Remember, politique. Paris is worth a mass. Okay, he was a politique. And so he issued the Edict of Nantes, which granted partial toleration to people in, to Huguenots in France. Okay, so as far as that goes, we need to shout out, okay, our friend Lucy Barr. Lucy Barr is here, who's been a great friend of Marco Learning. And so, Lucy Barr, thank you so much for helping us out here. And remember to shout out to Marco, to follow Marco Learning on Instagram. Oh, we are almost at 5,000 followers with Marco. So, Lucy Barr, thank you so much. And Liberty Faith. Okay, Liberty Faith. Those are okay words to say. Savannah Devlin, Maya Mendel. Let's see, we've got McLean Mims. All right, so Darlene, thank you so much. And we've got, let's see, Savage Kennedy, Jennifer Lee, and Shreya Singe. We've got G Nix 06, Bonnie N13. All right, excellent. Okay, so we will soon be at 5,000 Instagram followers for Marco. So then you've got the Treaty of Westphalia, which ends the 30 Years' War. Now, the Treaty of Westphalia, basically, it liberates the Netherlands and the Swiss from the Holy Roman Empire. I've got this all in my 30 Years' War videos. Hopefully, some of y'all be binge watching tonight. Be sure to watch the ads, okay? So with that, half the ad or 30 seconds of the ad. You don't have to watch the whole thing, but whatever is shorter, half the ad or 30 seconds, that's when I get like my penny or two that, gets to me. So, which I appreciate your time on that. So with that, when we think about the Peace of Westphalia, it basically is, it weakens the Holy Roman Emperor, it weakens the Habsburgs, it adds Calvinism. Now there are three religions in the Holy Roman Empire. And then we also see 1648, the Peace of Westphalia. That is the, where we see a recognition of the freedom of private worship. Okay, so what's starting to happen there is if somebody is, is worshiping privately, they are not making a show of it, then that person should be able to, be able to worship privately if they're not making a show. Now, the other thing we want to understand that concurrently, 1648 is the Peace of Westphalia. At the same time, 1649, Charles I of England, okay, he's got his head cut off. And so that is kind of the beginning of a more tolerant religious policy. Remember that part of the reason for the English Civil War is that that we've got a religious policy that was not tolerant, this idea of religious uniformity that went back to the Tudors. Okay, so looking through that, okay, it looks like Marco got above 5,000, which is excellent. Y'all did a great job with that. Reese Lee and we've got Tyler here, and we've got Colleen and Claire who. All right, and Miss, let's see. So Miss I Lamb, we've got you as well. So thank y'all so much for the love you're showing me there. So moving forward, I would say that the next one would be the Treaty of Utrecht, if we want to say it in Dutch, the Treaty of Utrecht, which you can just say the Treaty of Utrecht, right? It's a type test, right? So, or a speech to text test. If some of y'all are doing that, y'all are like, oh, I want a speech to text. I wouldn't recommend that. but some of y'all seem to be determined to do that. So then I would say the Treaty of Utrecht, which of course ended the War of the Spanish Succession. It gave, basically a Bourbon monarch would be put in Spain. You can't combine the French and Spanish Bourbons. And then you see where Britain gets Gibraltar. Britain's like, you know what, Louis, you can have your dynastic stuff, okay? Because what we want to understand is that wars up to the War of the Spanish Succession tended to be dynastic, whereas what we're going to see is a transition to it being about the balance of power, and specifically more and more the global balance of power. So I would say that the Treaty of Utrecht, which ended the War of the Spanish Succession, that Britain's like, look, we want a naval base. And Britain is already thinking in terms of like worldwide domination. Okay, so that's what you're seeing from Britain. And so with that, we see here that those are some things that we should know. Okay, so that's going on there, and that's going through, good bit of the course. I would say the Treaty of Versailles, but World War I basically didn't happen, right? So that's something to note. The Congress of Vienna, I think that would be something that's something of a treaty, but it's starting the concert system in Europe, and that's 1815. Remember, your anchor dates are 1648 and 1815. 1648 ending the era of the Reformation, with the Peace of Westphalia. 1815 with the Congress of Vienna, ending the era of Enlightenment, the French Revolution, and Napoleon. Okay, so speaking of Napoleon, is there anybody that wants to hear my Napoleon song? I don't want to sing anything that y'all don't want to hear. So let's think about that. So my Napoleon song, that's on my SoundCloud. Some of y'all probably heard it, or if you listen to my Instagram live, you might have heard it there. But definitely, if you want to hear it, let me know. If you don't want to hear it, let me know. Okay, so if people want to hear the song, then I'll sing it in a little bit. And if you don't want to hear the song, it's not going to hurt my feelings. Okay, so let's see what they've got here. Lots of people in the YouTube chat pressing F to pay respects, and I need to figure out like how can I see the super chats? Okay, that's something that I need to figure out. Like once super chats disappear, how can I see them? Okay, so I've got something there. Robert Diaz and Maya Conway are going to get a 5 on the test, thanks to Mr. Raymond. Mr. Raymond. Okay, so we've got a super chat out there. Okay, so we got that read. Sorry about the super chats I'm missing. I think the $20 super chats. My friend JB Wells, I tell you what, the Holy Roman Empire, neither holy nor Roman nor an empire. JB, if I can ever do anything to help you, let me know. If you ever contact me through the website, make sure that it said, you're the guy that's, always doing the super chats. Yeah, Voltaire said, and I think that the Treaty of Westphalia in 1648, what we're seeing here in the Treaty of Westphalia is the beginning of the Holy Roman Empire as neither holy nor Roman nor an empire. Okay. So as far as that, before I sing, to build up the anticipation, let's go ahead and shout out to Mr. Carpenter's AP Euro class, because, we see here that Jacob has got a, very well upvoted question here in Crowdcast. Okay, so what are the key new monarchs we should know, and the importance of the new monarchies? So the new monarchies, my favorites are, when you think about Ferdinand and Isabella of Spain, nobody expects the Spanish Inquisition. And then you look at the Tudors in England, Henry VII, Henry VIII, and, of course, Elizabeth I. Now you've got Edward VI and Bloody Mary tucked in there as well. But the new monarchies, they are beginning to centralize taxation. Okay, so Henry VII begins to centralize taxation and collecting taxes for, toward the monarchy. And so you see that they're undermining the feudal system. One of the biggest things that we see in the course and exam description is that the new monarchs, they are controlling religious life. Okay, so when you think about, Ferdinand and Isabella of Spain, okay, so if I am Estera, wanted to be, were a Jew or a Muslim, Ferdinand and Isabella of Spain's like, no, Spain is a Catholic country. In the Middle Ages, there had been, people who had, there'd been Jews and Muslims and Christians that are living alongside each other. Ferdinand and Isabella are like, no. Everybody here is going to be a Catholic, and if you don't like that, then you can leave. You can convert, die, or leave. Those are your choices. And so Ferdinand and Isabella, even before the Reformation, are beginning this practice of religious uniformity. Okay, so keep in mind, in the Middle Ages, I mean, there were Jews that lived throughout Europe in the Middle Ages, and so what we see is Ferdinand and Isabella insist on religious uniformity. Henry VIII, when he becomes, when he, decides to basically secede from the Catholic Church and start the Church of England, he says that everybody's coming with me. You don't have a choice to stay Catholic because, we're not Catholic anymore. That I am the king. It's my religion. Of course, the Peace of Westphalia is putting together a principle that we already see in happening in Spain and in England. And so Elizabeth I in the Elizabethan settlement, after basically Henry, which I describe as more of a secession, besides confiscating the monasteries, Henry did very little. Remember that Henry initially opposed Martin Luther and wrote a tract, The Defense of the Seven Sacraments, in defense of Catholicism, got that title Defender of the Faith because he did that. And then, so there wasn't much movement. Under Henry VIII, he didn't get rid of clerical celibacy. He didn't really change the service. And so then under Edward VI, Thomas Cranmer, the Archbishop of Canterbury, he begins this process of making the Anglican Church a little more Protestant. The priest can get married. The Book of Common Prayer gives the Anglican Church its own service. Then Edward dies only a few years after becoming king, and then Bloody Mary comes in. She's married to Philip II of Spain, the arch Catholic, right? We know him also from the Dutch Revolt. That Philip II of Spain's her husband. Mary says, we're going to be Catholic. Now, she's only there for about 5 years, and then she's succeeded by Elizabeth I. Okay, so Elizabeth I then says that England's going to be Protestant, but we're going to retain a lot of Catholic elements. So the Elizabethan settlement was something, the Elizabethan religious settlement, basically, it demands religious uniformity from the people of England, but it says that we are going to have a Protestant church that still retains a lot of Catholic elements, okay? And so basically, that everybody's going to be part of the same church. Now, of course, this is going to alienate the Puritans and the Separatists under the Stuarts later on. So as far as that goes, we see with the new monarchs, they are controlling religious life. Now, one thing we want to note, in order to compare the new monarchs with the absolutists, okay? So as far as that goes, if Gianna De Luca were a member of Parliament at the time that Henry VIII, Henry VIII started the English Reformation. Henry VIII called Parliament, and Parliament comes together, and they are, basically rubber stamping. Like Henry wanted to leave the Catholic Church, and he gets Parliament to pass the Act of Supremacy. Okay, thank you, Gabriel Perez 04. And so as far as that goes, we see that, the Act of Supremacy, Parliament passes this. Henry wanted buy-in from Parliament. Parliament, being on Henry's side, strengthened Henry's position in England leaving the Catholic Church. It's not just me. Parliament is getting involved in this too. Parliament is rubber stamping this. Now, when Louis XIV decided that he was going to rescind the Edict of Nantes, okay, so he decides he's going to rescind the Edict of Nantes. And with that, Louis XIV, he doesn't call the Estates General. Louis never called the Estates General. That's absolutism. That the new monarchs, Henry and Elizabeth, they still had to negotiate things with Parliament. And, even when Parliament gave approval, it's like that representative body still meets. And so James I and Charles I, they tried to minimize the role of Parliament and rule absolutely. And that is what you see there with the absolutists, that Peter the Great was not subject to a representative body. Frederick William the Great Elector in Prussia said, look, I need the ability to tax by decree. If I have to ask to tax, we're not going to be able to build the military we have to build as a small country. Prussia was the 12th largest country in Europe, 4th largest military. That was because the King of Prussia, who later became went from elector to king, the King of Prussia had the ability to tax by decree. Louis XIV could tax by decree, or he could sell noble titles, but he had an independent source of revenue, whereas the English monarchs typically, you know, dependent on Parliament consenting to that revenue. And of course, that's the whole thing. Part of the thing with the English Civil War is that Parliament resents that Charles I tried to collect, you know, he changed the way that ship money, okay? I have to say ship money. I have to pronounce that P really well. So ship money. Now, some of you wondering about cheating. If you go ahead, if you go to YouTube, I'm kind of proud of this. So go to YouTube and put in cheat on the AP exam, you know, so can I cheat on the AP exam? Okay, so can I cheat on the AP exam? You should be actually, you know what, that's I don't see this. Actually, I need to put planning to cheat on the AP exam. I need to redo that. Okay, so you know, planning, so cheat on the AP exam. Let's see what we're doing here. All right, so yeah, so with this, you know, we look at, you know, this AP exam where, you know, basically I go into, I've got a video, what is cheating on the 2020 AP exams and what is not. Okay, so what, you know, as far as that goes, what is cheating and what is not. I go into this with my daughter, you know, where we go into what is cheating, what is not cheating. So take a look at that. If you have anything, any other questions about what is considered cheating, what is considered not cheating, make sure that you understand that. And don't do anything that's considered not cheating. After all, Google is more reliable than any person that I know. Maybe I know like one or two people that are more reliable than Google, but you know, these are rare people. Certainly when I tried to ask my 9-year-old daughter who wrote Federalist 51, it was kind of hit and miss. You know, sometimes she gets it, sometimes she doesn't. All right. So I'm about to sing. I'm going to remind everybody we've got 4 more spots available at tonight's salon review. So if you want to review with us, you know, it's a small group limited to 30 people. Be sure to go ahead. There are 4 spots. This is going to fill up. All right. So with that, let me go ahead. And y'all wanted to hear my Napoleon song, okay? So I'm going to, what I'm going to do here is, you know, I'm going to try to do it from memory. Now, my recollection of the lyrics isn't the best, okay? But what I'm going to do here is we're going to see what we can do here. I may mess up, so if y'all can forgive me. Do you forgive me as I forgive you? Okay. So, and with that, let me go ahead before I start playing. And this song again is about Napoleon. Thank you very much, DX Coda, and Jack Laffey and Susan Whalen for the follows. Okay, and remember to follow Marco Learning as well. Okay, so as far as that goes, we've got some other folks here: Side Rattle, Ava Godfrey, Starabelle, and I'm Claire May. Danielle Williams, thank y'all for following my friends at Marco Learning. And y'all are going to love that account. It's so funny. They put the funniest like memes and the most helpful stuff. But of course, POV me. Tom Ritchie would say that because Tom Ritchie works with Marco Learning. And when people follow Marco Learning, it benefits Tom Ritchie. I just did some POV analysis. We'll go into that in a little bit. We'll go into POV, hold it down, okay? Let's see, I forget. I need to, yeah. The year was 1812, and the French emperor said that Russia couldn't trade with the British anymore. With a core military genius leading 500,000 men, the Grand Army can't do anything but win. Napoleon, Napoleon, the French Revolution brought you to your throne. The continental system trade with Britain must cease. It's the only way that Europe will ever know peace. Will we ever know peace? Coming back from Russia, not as many as before. The Grand Army ain't so grand anymore. Watch Moscow burn with the fires of hell, and our retreat, it didn't go so well. Napoleon, Napoleon. Let's see, you wanted Borodino, but you couldn't win the war. Gotta raise a new army with esprit de corps, cause the Sixth Coalition's coming back for more. Yeah, they're coming back for more. Battle of the Nations Patience lost to Europe's armies, just like Leonidas fell to Persians at Thermopylae. I wanted to keep fighting, but then after a debate, the French generals all decided it was time to abdicate. Napoleon, exiled into Elba, but he was escape prone. Let's see. So Napoleon, they exiled him to Elba, but he was escape prone. For 100 days he was back on the throne, but Wellington defeated him, and now he's gone. Yeah, and now he's gone. And now he's gone. Now, keep in mind, I mess up more, just something about open notes. I mess up more when I've got lyrics in front of me than when I make myself do it. Just something to kind of keep in mind, that you may want to take your exam the old-fashioned way. That unless you run into a topic that's just terrible, you may want to take your exam the old-fashioned way. Think about that, okay? So we'll talk about that more, but don't rely too much on notes, okay? So now he's gone. Y'all thought I was finished. The song's not over, okay? Looking at the stars and they're shining so bright, the view from St. Helena so pretty at night. But in the South Atlantic something doesn't feel right. Not a war, not a battle, not a triumph in sight. Let's see, in middle of nowhere, not exactly paradise. The English governor doesn't treat me very nice. Stomach ulcer, loneliness, I'm in such strife. Just 6 more years till the end of my life. Press F to pay respects. Napoleon just died. Come on, everybody, press F. Let's get the Fs going. All right, press F to pay respects. All right, y'all got the pressing Fs. Excellent. In 1840, they brought you home to an unmarked tomb beneath the classical dome. Now you're guarded by a dozen angels made of stone, and on the 17th of June, you were not alone. No, you were not alone. Napoleon, the French Revolution brought you to your throne. Those rumors about your height, they were overblown. Made your mark on history and you'll never be gone. No, you'll never be gone. No, you'll never be gone. All right, I wrote that at the beginning of the quarantine, so hopefully y'all enjoyed that. That's really like the first actual song I wrote. I'm not a rapper, but occasionally I'll rap. But I was like, you know what, let me write a song about Napoleon just because I want to. All right, so with that, ladies and gentlemen, hopefully y'all enjoyed that. And remember to go check out the Romulus Euro app at the App Store. Handy little trivia app. I think it'll be fun for those of you who are studying. All right, so with that, we will, we've got something here. Yeah, we've got, so Marco, the people at Marco are so happy right now. So y'all have like made them so happy with all these new followers. Okay, Karina, all right, thank you for the follow. Karina, I think you followed me again. I think I saw you on that, which guilty. I didn't call you out earlier, but persistence is key. Persistence is really great. All right, so Enlightened Absolutists. Now, June, if we look at the YouTube description of this video, I've got a DBQ on Enlightened Absolutism. Del Norte High School. Okay, so glad to shout out to Del Norte High School. So when we're looking at the Enlightened Absolutist, okay, now I may use this one tomorrow. I've got a DBQ. When you look at the 4 DBQs, the link to the 4 DBQs in the YouTube video description, you will see that, there is a DBQ on secularism in the Renaissance. There is a DBQ on Enlightened Absolutism. There is a DBQ on Napoleon and a DBQ on the conservative order. I may do the one on Enlightened Absolutism. I may do that one tomorrow. I want to spend some time on a DBQ DBQ at least one. I'm going to give y'all some time in case y'all want to write this for practice. So I'm not going to go through the DBQs, but understand that, that is a possible argumentative question. That what happens here is Marco Learning on Instagram is at Marco Learning. Okay, so at Tom Ritchie, at Marco Learning. So when we're thinking about enlightened absolutism, we want to think in terms of what is this going to, what is this going to be, what is the prompt going to be about? It's going to be about an argumentative question. So was the Renaissance more religious or more secular? Did Napoleon uphold the ideas of the French Revolution, or did he not? Were the enlightened absolutists more enlightened or more absolutist? So we want to understand that the enlightened absolutists, they are ruling absolutely, but they're trying to rule in accordance, or at least saying they're trying to rule in accordance with Enlightenment principles. The way that you can tell an enlightened absolutist is, when you think about an enlightened absolutist, is this person, first of all, tolerant of religious minorities? I think trap. Okay, so the enlightened absolutists are in the trap. One of these days, that's what I got to do. I've got to do an enlightened absolutism rap with, like, we're in the trap. Toleration of religious minorities. Y'all think that's an idea? So at Breakfast with Richie is 10 a.m. Eastern, and it'll continue. People are like, oh, that's 7 a.m. Pacific. And it's like, it'll continue. It's not a 1 minute thing. All right. So with that, by the time Lunch with Marco happens at 1 o'clock p.m., then what you're going to be seeing is with Lunch with Marco, then, that's going to be that's going to be at 1 o'clock Eastern. So that's going to be, that's going to be quite a while. You're going to have time. That's going to be 10 o'clock. So with that, that's what we're going to be doing. But enlightened absolutists, that's what I need to do. I need to do a rap like we're in the trap, and have like Frederick the Great and Catherine the Great and all that. So as far as that goes, we think about, now the exam is not curved per se. Remember, the exam, they cut the scores. They'll decide after the exams are scored where they're going to cut it off. Now, safe 3 would be a 6. Safe 4 would be an 8. Safe 5 would be a 9. I would say probable 3 would be a 5. Probable 4 would be a 7, and maybe a 5 would be an 8. I could see a scenario where an 8 out of 10 could be a 5. You're not going to have to get a 10 out of 10 in order to get a 5. I can tell you that much. They're not going to cut it like that, I don't think. All right. But as far as that goes, because there are going to be so few 10s when it comes down to it. So the enlightened absolutist, okay, so when we think about this, they're in the trap, all right? So we've got toleration of religious minorities, reform of institutions, absolutism, right, because they're absolutists, and then patronage of the philosophes. So if we're going to think about, were they more enlightened or more absolutist, we want to look at it through the lens of the Enlightenment. So Frederick the Great, which I've got a book, remember at the end, y'all remind me to read The Potato King. Okay, I've got this book called The Potato King, and it's great because Frederick the Great, he considered himself the first servant of the state. Okay, so Frederick the Great said that the role of a king is to be the first servant of the state. That's what he's thinking in terms of a king's job, that he is a servant leader. Now, the extent to which he lived up to that is up to historians. But Frederick was religiously tolerant. Now, one thing to note is that it's kind of like a similar situation as in Britain with the Test Acts, where you could be whatever religion you wanted. There was Christian toleration, but at the same time, and later on even more toleration than that. But, Frederick, in government positions, Protestants were preferred, but somebody could be Catholic, Protestant, whatever. Frederick personally wasn't really that religious. And Frederick also passed civil service reform. The reason he's called the Potato King is because he was very, very adamant about promoting the planting of potatoes. Okay, so he was known as the Potato King because he was very into planting potatoes. Okay, so yeah, Frederick William the Great Elector is like the first of the Fredericks that you need to know. Frederick the Great is the enlightened absolutist that you would need to know. Other than that, what I think is just like there was Frederick, there were a bunch of kings in Prussia whose names were Frederick, William, and Frederick William. Go look them up. Tell me where I'm wrong. Frederick William. I would know Frederick William, the great elector, and then Frederick the Great. Alina, is this Alina from Instagram? She'd let me know if that's the case, or if it's another Alina. So Frederick the Great, we think about potatoes. Potatoes are easy to plant and they're high in calories. They're cheap, they're high in calories, they're efficient. So potatoes, now, of course, we think they taste good because we put salt and oil and butter and all milk and all this stuff. We figured out how to do it. But at the time, they didn't. They were like, look, I mean, this stuff, like, it's just a potato is like disgusting when you just look at it and you try to eat it raw. It's like, ugh. So Frederick is trying to get his subjects to grow potatoes. So, he's known as the Potato King because of that. And so with that, that's an example of enlightened absolutism. Now, he also was a patron of the philosophes. Voltaire lived at his palace for a time. Now, Voltaire eventually left. They had a falling out. And that is kind of bringing us into, like, is absolutism the way to bring about enlightenment? I mean, because think about this. I mean, if anybody wants to argue with me, let me know. But, if I were to say that the vast majority of people are either stupid or uneducated. Like, when you think about it, if somebody's uneducated, it doesn't matter how smart they are. And so when you think about that there are enlightened philosophers who are kind of elitist. The Enlightenment is about elitist. And so, it's this elitism. And so this idea that, like, most people are never going to embrace enlightenment by themselves. Enlightenment can't come from the bottom. Enlightenment needs to be forced on a country. You see right now, there's actually some talk in Brazil. We could see, I mean, that's going to be interesting to see how the coronavirus affects some of these things. But there is talk that possibly the military may, there's talk that the military may take over the government, because that's the only way that the president can stay in office. And, they're saying to keep the economy going. I mean, you think about the coronavirus, people have different takes on this, sure, but there's a lot of panic going on right now. And the average person, they hear danger, they panic. And so, a lot of enlightened absolutists would say, or, enlightenment philosophers would say, you need someone at the top to basically tell everybody how it's going to be and make sure that you have freedom of inquiry, freedom of religion, freedom, at least freedom of the press, to the point where, see, that's the thing about Frederick the Great. Frederick the Great allowed academic freedom, but Frederick the Great did not allow the freedom to criticize him. Okay, so basically you could do, you could say anything you want as long as you weren't criticizing Frederick. And so basically it's like Immanuel Kant says, that only one ruler says, argue as much as you like, but obey. Okay. And so with that, Frederick the Great is kind of like the prime example of, an absolutist, or of an enlightened absolutist. Now, I've got a video on enlightened absolutism, June. So make sure, Fluffy Junicorn Phillips, all right, who is, June, Fluffy Junicorn Phillips. All right, that's interesting. All right. Can I go over the English Civil War and the Glorious Revolutions and the revolutions of 1848? That is quite a spam you've got there, Rashab. And what I'm going to say here is I've got videos on all of these topics. Now, typically I will do English Civil War and Glorious Revolution at some point during Breakfast with Richie. Okay, so I'm not going to cover that tonight, because that's something I typically do during Breakfast with Richie. Remember, that's going to begin at 10 a.m. on exam morning. Okay, so thank you very much, Allie Paul, for Allie, are you Mercy? Because you've got Mercy Friends. Okay, Allie has got Mercy Friends alert, or maybe, okay, Long Island at least, maybe. But are you Mercy? Because I don't know, but we've got some mutual friends. So thank you, Allie Paul, for that follow. Peter Lee, thank you for the follow. Alex J. Savage for the follow. Thank you so much. So with that, we've got Grant Dater, Dartmouth 24. Congratulations, you got into a really good school there. So let's get you a good score tomorrow. Okay, so with that, I will do those tomorrow. The revolutions of 1848, I'm sure I'll hit tomorrow to some extent or another. Now, remember, I've got videos about all this stuff. Okay, so I've got videos about all of these topics that are there, and so just make sure. Okay, and the salon review has filled up, so thank you everybody for filling up that salon review. We'd love for Romulus Euro to hit #1 in education. Currently, we're #3 at the App Store in education. So if y'all want to help me out and do something that's going to help you a bit, because this is something that is that is good. It's just a good, easy way to review in my, the way that I see it. Okay, of course, that is POV me, and we'll do some POV, hold it down, going on there. But let's see, Romulus Euro. Okay, so Romulus Euro, and we see here that it is, currently #3 in education. So we got a couple ahead of us, but we'll get there. We'll get there. So thank y'all very much for your support, of my, endeavors and all of that. So we will hit those topics during Breakfast with Richie tomorrow. Now, basics of Christianity that are relevant to AP Euro. Okay, so one thing that we want to understand, okay, so when we think about like the basics of the Christian religion, a lot of y'all are coming from, non-Christian backgrounds, like you were either raised irreligious or in a religion other than Christianity. And with that, I would especially recommend my videos on the Reformation, on Luther, on Calvin, because I really get into the theology. Now, also, we want to note, in terms of this, we want to note like Renaissance art, the Pietà. Okay, so understand that Christians believe that Jesus is the Son of God. Christians believe that Jesus was born of the Virgin Mary. Catholics and Protestants both believe in the Bible. Okay, Catholics and Protestants both believe in the Bible, but Catholics believe that the Bible should be interpreted in accordance with church tradition, and that the church hierarchy, the Pope and the bishops, they have the authority to interpret Scripture. Whereas Protestantism, like Lutheranism with the priesthood of all believers, is thinking more in terms of, people should be able to interpret the Bible on their own, regardless of church tradition or the church hierarchy, and that Scripture, sola scriptura, that Scripture should be the only basis for the Christian faith. Now, that, of course, has its connection to humanism. Basically, Martin Luther saying the Christian religion should be based on a classical text. And so that's something that we'll note with that. And so we want to understand that. We also want to understand that, if there's anything about the Catholic Church, ordaining women or, changing its position on a book. Well, actually, we're not actually having a multiple choice tomorrow, so I don't have to go over some of those things that I usually go over. So with that, make sure you understand that you the Virgin Mary when you see her, because Renaissance art, the Virgin Mary is all over Renaissance art. But if you come from a religious background other than Christianity, I would look at my Reformation playlist. Also, remember my big old Euro playlist, including some videos that I've done with Marco Learning that are very new. Like, they've been done in the last year, and we're really proud of those. And so remember, ladies and gentlemen, I will be back tomorrow at 10 a.m. Okay, so 10 a.m. Eastern for Breakfast with Richie, and that's going to be a very lengthy review, and then it's going to end at a certain point between 12 and 1 p.m. Eastern, and then at 1 p.m. Eastern, I'm going to be with lunch with Marco. So I would say that that 10, as far as that goes, it'll probably be like 10 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. Eastern, and then go from there. Okay. So with that, that it's just a DBQ. Yeah, I would say that Breakfast with Richie, anticipate that going from about 10 to 12:30 a.m. 10 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. And then lunch with Marco will start at, that'll start at 1 o'clock p.m. Thank you, M. Mikado, and Nate Coggin, and John Jarrow, and Elisa Rosario for the recent follows. And thank y'all again for all of the great stuff y'all are doing. And, finally, remember, Romulus Euro. go check out my app. I would love for you to buy it and to get some, just to get some good review in. That's pretty easy to do. Just sitting on your phone to answering little questions and building up those connections in your brain that are going to be useful. If you think you're just going to sit there and Google tomorrow, like, you don't have time for that. Okay, so that's something not so much. Now we will focus on some writing things tomorrow. Okay, so we're going to focus on some writing things tomorrow, and we will get into some things like contextualization. I'm not going to go into that right now because I want y'all to go into the video description on YouTube, download the DBQs that I've made available, and practice one or more of those. Okay, so be sure to practice tonight. Do a DBQ tonight. When you're watching my videos tonight, go to bed at a certain time. Go to bed like before, it's quarantine, so we're all in different times. So go to bed before 2 a.m. Give yourself like a 2 a.m. bedtime, maybe even a 1 a.m. You're done studying. Okay, so wake up in the morning, refreshed, make yourself a good breakfast. Let's have breakfast. Oh, Potato King. That's right. That's right. Thank y'all so much. Okay, so I almost forgot. Time to read to y'all as well. And I'll be sure to rap tomorrow morning too. Okay, there will be some rapping tomorrow morning. We'll make sure that we do that. So let's have a little bedtime story, okay? And with that, I'm actually going to let's see. Let's turn the light off. Let's get some lower light here. Okay, so let's go ahead and lower the light, and we've got a little story time. Okay, so this is a book called The Potato King by Christoph Niemann. Hopefully I'm not violating any copyrights or anything by reading this. I want to be clear what this book is, the author. I want you to get a good look, because I would like, if somebody likes it, I'd like for them to buy it. I'm not trying to keep people from buying it, but we're going to read The Potato King. Okay, and with that, I won't show most of the pictures since we're on like a big broadcast, but actually, you know what? Well, I don't know, but we'll see. I mean, they can monetize this video if they want to, right? So with that, The Potato King. All right, so this is about Frederick the Great. There once was a king called Fritz. One day he heard about a new wonder plant from South America, the potato. He planted a big field in a nearby village, and he spoke to his citizens. Here, here, I give you the potato. It costs little to grow and is healthy to boot. The people, however, didn't like to be told what to eat. Ow. King Fritz was upset. Then he had an idea. He ordered his soldiers to march to the village. Dun, dun, dun. That Prussian military, right? Dun, dun, dun. And guard the potato field. Thought the villagers. If a vegetable has to be so closely guarded, there must be something special about it. The king had ordered the guards to go easy on their watch at night, baiting the locals to steal the crop for their own garden. You see, Frederick tricked them. The potato flourished and has lived on as a key ingredient in local kitchens ever since. This story may be a myth, but to this day, people honor King Fritz by putting potatoes on his grave. So if you ever go to the grave of Frederick the Great and you visit it, make sure to put a potato on his grave to show respect. And with that, we can't put a potato on his grave. Actually, you know what? Let's press P to pay respects. Okay, let's press P to pay respects. Great, Mark. Thank you. I'm glad you saw it. But let's press P to pay respects. And remember, I will be back tomorrow. And it's going to be great. Breakfast with Richie at 10, lunch with Marco at 1. And remember, Romulus AP European History Review is for sale at the App Store and at Google simple play, free practice test available at Marco Learning. Remember, my DBQ page has a lot of resources. Tomorrow, we'll focus on some writing. We'll talk about things like, you know, about the Stuarts in England and some other things that are useful. Okay, Marco Learning right now with 3.33K subscribers. Y'all go ahead and go over there and subscribe to that channel. Do yourself a favor there, and make sure you're following us on Instagram, because we'll be in touch and we'll have a little kind of you know, jam session tomorrow after the test. All right, so thank you very much, Arabella and Francis. I love y'all as well. And all of you that have been watching tonight, thank you so much. Remember, get to bed before 2 a.m. Like, actually, you know, don't stay up all night. You got to test tomorrow. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, I'll see you in the morning, and it's always a pleasure.